All right, so while it's doing this, there are a few questions. Eric is asking, I don't know if Microsoft fixed it, but I did an Azure project back in September, and deploy package size was greater than 10 megabytes. It wouldn't work through the portal. You know, I have not tried it with terribly large deployments, but based on the feedback that I have seen on the forums, I believe they have fixed this issue, and they have made it significantly faster. So previously, when we just started playing with this, upload times were horrible. And at times, you know, for sample applications that we were building, and they were maybe 10 to 15 megabytes, it was taking 20, 25 minutes. But now it is much better. So right now, we see the files were uploaded, and it's actually deploying this package into Azure infrastructure. And I can switch, while it's doing this, I can switch to the other one, compute, where I have done this previously while preparing for this webinar. And I already have the server running. So here it is, my production. And as you can see, this web role is ready and running right now on this particular server. And it also gives you the URL. So in fact, you can go to this URL right now, WebORB.cloudapp.net, and that's where this application is running. Now, I did not change the welcome page, so if you type in WebORB.aspx, you will see Management Console for that particular deployment. So right here, you will see that all of the remoting and data management parts of this application are up and running. And the reason it's just remoting and data management is because I have not deployed my worker role. Had I deployed worker role, then we would also see all the RTMP related stuff deployed in there as well. Now, for services, all the traditional things that you are familiar with, if you are familiar with WebORB, will be applicable right here. So here we can inspect all the assemblies which have been deployed. So inside of, let's say, WebORB.dll, all of the example classes that we provide are going to be here. Basic service, if I select one, the code generator is going to kick in, and you can, you know, generate classes and so on. And also the same thing is true for invocation test drive. So you can just type in the arguments, click invoke, and the actual invocation is right there. Plus, for any assemblies that you have as a part of your Visual Studio are going to be right here. So this is the default one that Visual Studio created. So this web role 1 is going to contain some classes. Here it is, all the default Visual Studio stuff. So it's all going to be right there. Okay. As far as the data management, it is also fully functional. However, with data management, the approach that we recommend is you can build everything first before you upload to Azure. And once you have your code generated and configured and included into your Visual Studio project, then you can start uploading into the cloud. Now, as far as data management is concerned, there is something else that we did that is going to be released very soon with WebORB for .NET, is the support for Azure SQL. Now, before I go in there, let me take a look if there are any questions that are pending. Okay, Mark is asking, the comment is, Microsoft is charging even if the deployed app is not running. Are you also following the model, or only the running one will be charged? So only the running one will be charged. And not only that, it will be charged only for the full hours deployed in the cloud. So if you run an app, let's say while you're debugging and playing with WebORB for .NET, or diagnosing any kind of issues, once you run WebORB for .NET, if you don't run it for the full hour, you will not be charged anything. So this is our way of providing an infrastructure where you can use it and debug any kind of issues and develop with it really for free. But once you're in production and the service is running for a full hour, then the billing takes place. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Azure SQL. Now, Azure SQL, if you're not familiar with it, is a really SQL server running in the cloud. Let me bring another browser window right here. So this is the new portal, and the reason I use new portal is because for Azure SQL, it's actually quite nice. So once you log in into your Azure account, you have a bunch of different things that you can do. So there's hosted services. So this is where you will run your instances and deploy code and so on. And there is database. So if you click on database, you actually see SQL Server running in the cloud, and you can create your own databases in here, and you can manage your databases and so on. So here, this is how you would create a new database. So I do have a database here called TestDB, and once you click Manage, it opens up, let's say, I think it is called SQL Server Management Studio, but it's like a web-based version of that Management Studio. And as you can see, this is a Silverlight client, which is the front end for that particular instance of SQL Server. So in here, once it loads up, you can run your SQL queries, you can import a SQL script and create all your databases. So it really is a fully functional management studio for your SQL Server. Now, as far as WebORB is concerned, so let me log in into that real quick so you can see what's inside of that database. So as far as WebORB is concerned, our data management fully supports Azure SQL. So right here you can see there are 13 tables, and I imported Northwind into this database. So now a couple of interesting things that we can do. So first of all, let me select the SQL Server, and this is the fully qualified DNS name. Oops, just select it and copy it. Now if I switch to my, and this is my local WebORB. Okay, so it's your localhost WebORB 4. In fact, let me just reload it just to make sure that everything is fresh in that particular instance. So in this particular local instance of WebORB, I can connect to my cloud Azure SQL Server and generate all the data management code for it. So in this case, I select data management, databases, I select Microsoft SQL Server. So for the server address, it is going to be this DNS name that we got from my Azure account. And as you can see, it is right here. Okay. And for login, it is this administrator login. It's marked lowercase. And the password that you configure in the cloud as well. So in fact, see, you can reset admin password. So once you connect to this, WebORB will load a list of the databases, and this is my TestDB. And here we can see all the tables that that particular SQL Server has. So these are all the tables, all the store procedures, all the views and store procedures. And I can just import this database into my data model. So I'm going to call it, let's say, Northwind. Just say com.mw, com.mw. I'm going to select C# and generate test drive. So once I save, so now this step takes a little bit of time because WebORB is connecting to that SQL Server in the cloud, downloading, introspecting it, downloading all the information about tables with their primary keys and column names and so on. So then all this information will show up right here, and you can generate your code, and then you will have essentially WebORB running either locally, or you can deploy that WebORB in the cloud, functioning as the data management server for all the data. So here it is, all these tables. So for all the data which is hosted in the cloud. Okay. So in this case, I think it is pretty cool because the barrier of entry into using something like SQL Server is very low. I have not looked into the actual pricing for Azure SQL, but I believe it is fairly traditional for the cloud-based deployments. So at this point, we can just start the code generation, we'll validate the model, start the code generation, and then all the traditional stuff takes place. Okay. So now once the code is generated and compiled, you can include that assembly into your WebORB project, deploy it into the cloud, and in this case, both WebORB and the actual database will be running in the cloud. All right. Let's switch back to this. I think there are a few questions. Let me take a look. Okay, so those were just comments. All right, so that's data management. All right, so now code generation complete. I can deploy this code. If I go to services and refresh, then I'm going to have my, I think it's still refreshing, is it? Yeah. So here it is, my northwind.dll, which is the server-side code to work with the data that is sitting in the cloud. So let's say if we want to load all the customers, select the customers table. Actually, go to _customers data mapper, find all, click invoke. Oh, got an error. Okay, so something was not right there. Oh, I need to go to customers data mapper. Here it is. Find all. So now invocation goes out to my, and here it is. So these are all the records that are coming into my server-side code deployed in my local WebORB from a SQL server that is running in the cloud. And then once you switch to data management, you can just download the code. Clicking here, it's going to give you a zip file which contains all the ActionScript code that you can use in your Flex application to connect to that database through WebORB. Now, going back to the beginning of this presentation when I showed you those slides and matrices, as far as data management is concerned, what we are working on now is providing this data management capability to client environments other than ActionScript. So the generated code that this system will provide will support JavaScript, so you can work with the data using exactly the same APIs that we support today from your JavaScript applications. We are adding support for Android, for Java-based Android, because Android as Air is supported today, as well as iOS. So pretty much any client-side environment, including mobile environments which are present today, you will be able to take advantage of the code generation to create data-driven applications for your data management, for your data through WebORB data management. Okay.